We're going to bring the regular council meeting for July 12th, 2016 to order. Will everybody please rise for an invocation and remain standing for the flag salute. Mr. DeMarzio.
Thank you, President Moore. In lieu of what has transpired in Dallas last week, I ask that we all bow our heads for thoughts for those police officers who were killed in a line of duty. And I have a prayer here for those that continue to keep us safe. And I wanted to read it tonight as our show of support for our police officers and those throughout our country. O Almighty God, whose great power and eternal wisdom embraces the universe, watch over all policemen and law enforcement officers everywhere. Protect them from harm in the performance of their duty to stop crime, robbery, riots, and violence. We pray, help them keep our streets and homes safe day and night. We commend them to your loving care because their duty is dangerous. Grant them strength and courage in their daily assignments, dear God. Protect these brave men and women. Grant them your almighty protection. Unite them safely with their families after duty has ended. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Snyder? Mrs. Rossi? Here. Mr. Rossi?
Here.
Mr. Mulder?
Present.
Mr. Schotter?
Here.
Mr. DeMarzio?
Present.
Vice President Zigarelli? Mr. Wilson?
Present.
Mr. Michael?
Present.
President Moore?
Present.
Mayor Ammeline?
Visitors' comments in regards to items on the agenda. Comments in regards to items on the agenda. Communications, Mr. Williams?
No communication this evening.
This time I'll need a motion to approve regular minute meetings of June 28, 2016 council meeting.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Motion to approve monthly bills.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Question.
Yeah.
Two questions, actually. You look under lawn care, we paid Sean McCreary $1,800 to cut the pump houses line this month. He's supposed to be contracted for $253 a cut, and when we set it up originally, it was supposed to be 2 cuts a month. And it's $1,800. In fact, along with the mulch, we totaled over $5,000 this month in grass cutting and mulch alone. The other question was, did we receive was last month's gasoline bill for the police, was that on last month's bill? I erased mine.
I believe it was, yes.
It was. So we didn't skip a month.
No, Mayor Ammeline was behind a month on his report because he wasn't here.
Okay, so that $1,000 is actually 2 months, is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Okay, I can live with that, but
Yeah, we pay the bills as they come in from Martino's, and they're not always on time, like they're not on an exact date all the time. Like with the diesel bill's one bill, the gas bill's another bill. So it's not like they give it at the beginning of the month, they give it when we have to fill our tank.
okay.
That's when those reads are taken.
So it's not a usage bill, it's
Correct.
a purchase bill.
Correct.
Thank you.
I mean, I would have to look at the
And I just gave
bill for the pump house, and obviously, that might not be a monthly bill, it might be based on a month and a half or 2 months.
The dates are on there.
Okay. Yeah, so there were 5 cuts, and then the trimming of the hillside on 2 occasions, and it amounts to 1810. I'm not sure I understand your question.
He was supposed to cut it every 2 weeks.
Where did 2 weeks come?
When he set it up and bid on it, it was $253. Well, even at 4 cuts within a month, that's $1,000. If he's doing it weekly. But I recall being every 2 weeks for some of these borough
The
properties.
park was to be cut every week. The hillside was every other week and as needed. And that's why you have 5 cuts and then 2 hillsides.
When he bid the pump house, it was for the entire property for $253. There was no segregation of neither the playground nor the hillside.
I believe there was.
I think there was.
I just think it's outrageous, $1,800 a month for one property. My opinion is we ought to set guidelines on how often everything ought to be cut. I just think it's overkill.
That would be a matter for next year when they go out and bid, then, present that. But I can tell you, if the pump house goes 2 weeks without cuts at certain times of the year, then you're gonna have people complaining, why is the pump house part look like this with high grass? And that's just gonna be a personal perception as to,
So is it $250 no matter what he shows up for?
it's $250 a cut. It doesn't matter how high the grass is. But I think if you put out the bid and you say you want the property cut now every 2 weeks, if you're gonna cut it every 2 weeks and not every week, you're probably not gonna cut it for $250 because he knows it's gonna be higher from cutting it every 2 weeks, and it might be $325, $350. I don't know. But I don't think he's gonna cut it every 2 weeks at $250.
I'd like to see what the contract says if we can do that after the meeting, since we got a motion on the floor.
Jeff, there's the police department's gas bill.
Yeah, I understand that. Dawn explained that. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All in
Yeah,
favor?
I have
Oh,
a question.
or-
And this is in line with cutting grass down there, and I have to be the bad guy here. Who cut Dorothy's grass? For
The Public Works Department.
so why are they cutting his grass and not down here on the other property?
Mr. Nowicki given us permission to utilize his space for the fireworks, and that was a joint agreement for that property. So with that approval, we were able to cut it.
Okay, it's a slippery slope here.
How often do we cut
Send
it?
a crew down my place.
It was just,
Grass needs cut.
just that one time.
You got my permission. I thought we weren't doing private property. Put it out there.
Again, it was directed to clean up the area down there because we were having a community day event. We got
Okay.
the authorization to do it. We did it to enhance the community. Again, I hear and understand where you're coming from.
Right.
If it's gonna be across the board, I have no problem with enforcing that.
Again, I have to be the bad guy here because I got quizzed on it. What is the procedure for high grass on private property? He's responsible, not us, for the enhancement of the community. Especially after what that man did to this borough.
I think if you attended the event, you would have seen that there was numerous people utilizing that space for the community event. Again, I guess he could have roped it off and kept everybody off of it too.
That's his prerogative. Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Jeff and John, no. Motion passes. Managers report, Mr. Leon.
Thank you, President. We have a couple items on the agenda to talk about and a couple that aren't that I'll elaborate on. In regards to the DCNR item, you have the letter from them formally approving the additional funding for the inline park comfort station. An additional update on that is we received all the documents from the contractors doing the work. The last one from the electrical contractor came in today. So we have all the bonding and everything to move forward with that. The general contractor has ordered the steel, and that's the biggest timeline. We're waiting for the steel to be fabricated. Once there's a closer delivery date, they'll then begin with the constructing of the footer. The Standard & Poor's report, that is also in your packet, based on an assessment of the borough financing, in addition to an interview with myself on the budgeting practices and principles of the borough. I'm proud to say that we did get a A+ stable rating from it, which is extremely good for a municipality. With that being said, everything's moving forward with the bonding. We're scheduled to close on it at our next meeting on the 26th. The bond advisor and the solicitor for the bond saw no problem with the borough if we intended to move forward with the awarding of the road paving project and the water lines, if we wanted to do that this evening. But they had asked for running it by our solicitor, which there was an email that went out, but unfortunately it didn't correspond with Solicitor York. So he is actually hearing this for the first time. I don't know if he has an opinion to it on short notice. Again, it's not critical. I mean, we can wait 2 more weeks, but I know there's been this urgency of wanting to get this done, residents wanting to know, when the roads are going to get paved, and it would just, we'd be able to send the letters to proceed to those respective contractors, and it would just speed things up 2 weeks. But there are crazy scenarios where the bond financing could fall through theoretically, but with all the bond rating that we have, I mean, it would probably be an act of maybe war or something extremely detrimental to the economy that would lead them to do so.
Well, there's a way that you could approve it by executing another document, but when I last checked with bond counsel, the person who coordinates all the paperwork and is the brains behind the whole thing has been away for some time on vacation. He's not due back until next week, and that they have another bond issue that they're working on. So I'm not sure that if you were given the time frame of having it done at the next meeting is accurate.
That's what Attorney Salapak and the representative from Commonwealth Investments, okay, that they have it for the 26th. Now, whether they're going to hit that date or not, but that's, I have emails
When did they
stating
tell you that?
last week, Thursday or Friday.
Because I spoke to him this afternoon on another matter. He related that there could be a delay in this. He wasn't sure, so if you keep to your regular schedule and approve it at a regularly scheduled meeting, and you can't do it at the next regular meeting, it would be 4 weeks away. I'd be a little bit more antsy about awarding this contract a month out under those circumstances.
So you're recommending?
So I'm recommending that you not do it because it's.
At this meeting.
So we wait until those that keep asking, this will be done when the bond closing happens then, so that's the answer on that. Had a meeting today with PennDOT, Tony Sudaka from Woodburn Engineering attended it with me as well. There is a project scheduled for 2017 which the paving of State Route 18 from up in Center Township all the way down through Monaca Borough to the 9th Street Bridge, and it would also go from 9th Street on Pennsylvania Avenue to where they finished the project a couple years ago there in front of Yolanda's. When it was brought to our attention that that work would be being done in 2017, we called a meeting with them indicating that I know that the Columbia Gas just marked PA1 calls for repairing the gas line out there, and it didn't make sense if they came in and paid that and then Columbia Gas tears it up. In addition to the fact that we're looking to do a streetscape as well. Again, it probably won't happen in 2007. There's a possibility that aspects of it could begin in 2018. We were looking at how we can coordinate this effort, because obviously if PennDOT comes in there and paves it, PennDOT's gonna look bad and Monaca Borough would look bad if a year or two later we're tearing it up. It's a very good conversation. They seem to be very receptive to the fact, and it also helps improve the borough's opportunity in leveraging the streetscape, because they've already committed to expending these dollars for the road resurfacing. So that dollar amount would be extracted out of what we would have to then do. We also, and this is PennDOT's wishes as well, they're going to strongly suggest that the gas company picks one of the sidewalks to put the line in. So by moving the gas line into one of the sidewalks, we're then able to leverage Columbia Gas to pay for some of the restoration of the sidewalks. Monaca Borough, we also have water and sewer lines in there. The sewer line, it might be just a simple relining if we find cracks or deficiencies in those lines, but if the water line, we need a total replacement. It may behoove us to place our water line in the opposite side of the sidewalk. And then there'd be a component that the water department would be responsible for making that restoration cost. So it provides us the ability to leverage additional dollars to put towards this. The county commissioners have informally pledged $1.5 billion of Section 108 monies. However, we still have to meet the threshold of compliance under ADA requirements that are curb ramps and sidewalks are hazardous things. So that is going to be conducted as well. So there's a lot of positive out of it, and I think leveraging the dollars, and also we'll be submitting a grant for $3 billion of multimodal, PennDOT multimodal too. So the 1.5, 3 million, leveraging some dollars out of the gas line, water line, we might be able to get into a $5-6 million streetscape improvement from 9th Street to 16th Street. CJ Mansion, update there. We're going to be testing the air conditioner units tomorrow. So they're basically 99% done with the HVAC, and providing everything goes good with testing. That part of the project is complete. The elevator, the shaft is totally complete. We're just waiting on the elevator unit to get installed. However, there is a little glitch with the elevator on the distance of the hydraulic line from the basement equipment room to where the elevator's at. And we have to resolve that issue, and we're still trying to coordinate a meeting with the elevator representatives, the general contractor, the architect, and myself to determine how we're going to resolve this issue, and whether the solution is simple or complex. We'll still have to wait to see. Cross our fingers. And then the renovation, the Public Works Department been doing all the renovation, and we're pretty much done with all the major work. It's just a matter of painting all the walls and installing the carpet, and all of that remodeling is complete as well. And I believe that covers all the issues that I needed to present to you this evening. If there's any questions.
Yes, Mario. With this streetscape, with the storm sewers on Pennsylvania Road,
We did talk about the storm sewers. We are aware that there are some combined
storm sewers, if that's what you're.
No, storm,
Storm?
sanitary.
Well, the storm and the sanitary are combined.
Right, but I'm talking about the depletion of the ones that need replaced, 14th Street across
Catch basin.
catch basins.
Yeah, depending on their conditions and their assessment and their protocol, some will be repaired from their standpoint, others will fall back to us. The concern there is some of the ones that are deteriorating is whether or not they'll make it till 2017 or 18 is a more serious issue. But if they came through in 2017 and did any catch basins that were needed repaired, they probably address. Again, there's conditions, and they might say, no, and or you have to do it. And when they do that, when they come in and pave, they also, by law, when we pave, just as it applies to us, if you encroach an intersection that has curb ramps, all those curb ramps have to come up to ADA requirements. And there's some other dollars. They would fix the ones that, all the curb ramps that would go to Pennsylvania Avenue, but the cross ones on all the 10th and that, they wouldn't fix those, but since they're fixing the one side, they provide us the opportunity to improve the ones on the side roads, but that's at an 80-20% match. They pay 80% of it, we pay 20. They threw out a cost, I believe, if they come through and do from 4th Street and then all of 9th Street, all of the respective crosswalks, we would have to pay about $45,000 for those improvements, which is not a bad deal to have all those upgraded. And then, I can't remember the number now, from 9th to 16th, but the number wasn't as high. Yeah, so there's different components where they make the costers, and that they may fix the storm drain, but it might be an 80-20, it might not be 100%. They have different formulas for some of that stuff. And thanks Mr. DeJoven out there, and it brings to me we also discussed the storm drains at the dip of the hill in front of the wastewater treatment plant. That conversation there was a little more sensitive. There's some issues there. I believe there's a 12-inch line, or it's 18-inch line coming across the road, and then it goes into a 12-inch line on the to the river. They're engineers and they're simple mathematics. They know that going from an 18-inch into a 12-inch creates a problem in itself, and there could be other issues on that whole drain going to the river. They were non-committal into who would be responsible for that. They understand there's a problem, so we at least have to be looking at it and addressing it. But again, that could be maybe an 80-20 match or whatever, 50, depending on the formula for that particular infrastructure improvement.
What I didn't hear, and I guess it may be part of the master plan, is the moving of the telephone poles.
Telephone poles are not being addressed at this point. That is a lot larger cost. And preliminary, we looked at rerouting and putting telephone poles in the alleys, but it's pretty much cost prohibitive. The utility company is not willfully wanting to do that. It's going to be something that we want to do, so we have to bear that cost 100%. And it's not as simple as moving the utility to the back of the alley. You have people's service boxes that are now in front of the property. You've got to do a lot of wiring inside. The electric is just almost cost prohibitive as much as we want to do that. I don't see it.
Nor can we bury it, since we're on the sidewalk space.
Again, that full cost will be on the borough, and I don't know where the funding will come from to achieve that. Unless, there's a will of council wanting to raise another $2 million in borough monies to do that. But I know it's going to be costly.
It was more than a couple.
Just some food for thought. If you're talking about putting the water line in the sidewalk, it's not a bad idea, because we have torn up Pennsylvania Avenue before. But I just want everybody to consider about going around the bend past Kurt. We have to get a water line to those three houses and to Herzog's. We have to provide water to them, and while we're doing this wall, we ended up on Kurt's side of the street. We're still gonna have to cross 18 again.
That's all been addressed. With the Marquis run. That's all been addressed.
Oh, so we don't have to make the bend anymore.
It's all new water line.
Coming down.
Coming down off of McCoy and down Marquis Run.
But you make a good point, one of the water lines.
The water line comes up Route 18.
Yes, we have to go down around the bend, where we're putting up the new wall. We're gonna have to pick a side, correct?
No.
We pulling the water line out
It's
of.
done.
When we
Water
put the
line's
new
in there.
sewer line in, we also, at that time, put a new water line
Where?
It actually
all the
runs
way
through-
through.
It runs through the parking lot of the wastewater plant. The water line is jogged off of Route 18 there, and it deads right, if you look right at the corner, there's a hydrant right there, that's where it deads.
It did.
It deads
So how are
right
we
there.
providing
So what we-
Herzog and the other three
Well,
houses?
they're already fed via that line. Yeah, they ran all new sewer and water lines up there.
Well, here's my point, no matter which way we do it, if you don't run it down both sides of the street, you're gonna have service lines. You're still gonna have service lines
Still
out
have
there.
service lines.
Pardon me?
Yeah, you still have service lines.
Could we ask them one question? We have a problem with the service line from somebody on the opposing side of the water line. Will they let us horizontal bore under Main Street to run a new line if we need to? It keeps from tearing the road up, Mario.
Yeah, I can ask that question, and I
If you
don't,
would,
I don't,
please.
I don't see why they would, prohibit that.
We're talking about out there on 18.
Anywhere.
I mean, they would advocate that.
You're still gonna have water lines under Pennsylvania Avenue, it just won't be the water main. But anybody on the opposing side of the street is gonna have a service line underneath Pennsylvania Avenue.
I think there's only one house left there.
No,
Plus
no,
Herzog's.
anywhere on
Yeah.
Pennsylvania Avenue. No, I'm talking about Main Street, John. Mario said if the gas company picks one side, we pick the other. You're still gonna have opposing properties.
Yeah.
Way off.
Well, I'm just saying it for consideration.
Any other questions? Borough Solicitor Report, Attorney Rick.
Mario asked me to be prepared to cover a funding concept known as tax increment financing with you. So I wanted to spend a few minutes discussing that. Maybe
They're not privy to the concept and all that, so anything that you can do to
Right.
help enlighten them from.
tax increment financing is not anything new to Pennsylvania law, but isn't as used as frequently as funding by grants, funding through a traditional bond issue, or funding through a bank loan. What tax increment financing is done for typically is to develop areas that need to be redeveloped. One of the aims of it typically, again, is used to clear blighted areas. Doesn't necessarily have to be limited to blight. It could be to redevelop an area or to develop it further. It could be done for municipal provided services, municipal infrastructure. Could also be used for private or commercial development. The concept is this: you clean out an area, you build up the area, you build up the tax revenues. And you have to essentially borrow money to do that. So when new tax revenues come in, or increased tax revenues come in, whoever it is that does the financing, whatever entity is the one that borrows the money, they get the icing on the cake, so to speak. They get the increased tax revenue. And that is what's used to pay back the bonds or the loan. The base tax amount you still keep as a municipality. So for instance, if you had $20,000 worth of tax receipts in a certain area, and through tax increment financing, you improve the area, and as a result, there's $40,000 worth of taxes that come in, you keep the 20, and the other 20 is used to pay back the borrowing of the money by the entity that is incrementally increasing your taxes. So a $20,000 amount that you're getting in taxes suddenly goes up to $40,000. That extra 20 is used not by you in your coffers. You don't get that money. That money goes to whomever issued the bonds to pay the bonds off. And it's limited to a 20-year period of time. And once all the borrowing, all the bonds are paid off, you then get the whole enchilada. You get all the tax revenues. Follow that?
Question.
So the delta on the tax increase, so we, in our situation, a school tax, a county tax, and municipal tax. So let's say Central Valley's goes up 5,000 of this 20,000. Does Monaca retain, let's say Monaca is the issuing entity for the bond. Will Monaca realize that new revenue to pay towards the bond, or Central Valley still gets their increase?
They still get their, no, they don't get their, they all, this is a joint effort on behalf of all the taxing bodies. They all have to agree to it.
Okay.
And they all have to agree to it because they all have a stake in the outcome. The stake in the outcome is you've made an area nicer, you've improved it, you've increased the tax base, which ultimately benefits everybody else other than you and your community. But that extra tax money is used to pay off the loan. And once it's paid off, then everybody shares whatever their taxing receipts should be.
Okay.
Question on that. If it takes a number of years, if it's gonna take 5 years or 10 years to start to realize that money, what happens? Is there compounding of interest, or are there any interest charged to that, or how would that work, Rich? Am I missing something here in terms of redevelopment?
Well, I think your question is really to put it in a different frame, if I might.
Yes.
When you want to redevelop an area, you aren't the entity. The borough is not the one that says we're going to redevelop. You need money. You need a source of money right now because you need to develop a plan. It has to be a formal plan. It has to be studied. There has to be an economic study done. Some other things that the county assessor has to do to determine the taxable value. You have to declare what district that you want to make, what blocks, what parts of the town you want to include in this. So that's all going to cost money. And either you come up with it up front, or this borrowing entity comes up with the money. And the borrowing entity is another municipal government that can't raise taxes like you can. It's an authority. It's similar to what you used to have here, we got rid of years ago, when you had a water authority and a sewer authority. So this is an authority, it's a legally recognized Pennsylvania government unit. And so you could create one here, you could create a Monaca redevelopment authority. Or you could create one, not have it be the borrower, but go to an existing authority somewhere else, have them issue the bonds, have your redevelopment authority be ultimately obligated, or you could just skip that intermediate step and not create your own authority. So there are three that I know of offhand. Center Township did this. They created a Center Township redevelopment authority. So they have borrowing power. They created that, I think, to build one of the outside malls. I don't know if it was the Target one or.
Most of the infrastructure improvements for all the signalizations at Target and Walmart were all done under this
Yeah, not all of them.
concept that developed paid for that improvement for that one. I think, pretty sure the one outside of Aldi's was done for that most recently.
So you need a funding source, and if that entity already has the money in its coffers to pay for all these preliminary things, if they don't have the money, then you go to a private developer who commits to doing the project and paying for these costs up front. But to get it done, the developer's not gonna put the developer's own money into it. The developer wants it to be publicly financed, and you publicly finance it by issuing bonds that raise money so that you could pay for the development. But to get the bonds paid off, you need tax revenue. And once the tax revenue comes in, you still get to keep what you would have gotten had it not been developed. And anything over and above that, the icing on the cake, goes to pay off the bonds.
Talking municipal bonds,
Yes.
tax-free.
Tax-free bonds is the same thing as what you plan to do in the next month, I think. Mario thinks maybe 2 weeks, but I think it would be a closer to a month. But regardless,
Rich, you said that this is a joint effort due to the fact the school board represents both a borough and a township. Does that mean Center would have to be on board?
Yes.
With us also?
yes. Yeah, so they're not the ones spearheading it.
Right.
You would be the ones spearheading it, but they would have to give their consent to it, as would the county, because the county has a stake in the tax outcome as well.
So we,
Typically, they're spearheaded by the local municipality. Right? The school district loses no money, the county loses no money, and the municipality loses money. You're getting what you're already getting. Okay? But any improvements that happen during that period, those proceeds, all of the school taxes, all of the county, and all of that increase in municipal taxes will go to that entity to pay for the improvements. The reason I bring this up is, as I mentioned earlier with the streetscape, the borough is probably going to have to initiate additional dollars to help facilitate these improvements over here. Instead of us raising taxes to pay down that bond that we're going to have to borrow for this public improvement, you utilize it through this tax increment financing, and that becomes the funding vehicle to pay for it. There's no raising the taxes. It's those new improvements that are going to happen that we pay for it. And we all know the speculation of Shell, the interest for redeveloping downtown. This will be, I think, a big opportunity for Monaca Borough to get additional funding to secure a streetscape project through this corridor on those improvements. We're sitting on potential, what happens with this. We're talking about Washington Plaza. We're talking about the library building. Those are three entities that they currently sit, there's zero taxes generated. If development would occur at any one of those three sites, the additional revenue from those locations would all be able to be applied to debt payment for improvements along the way. any other property, I mean, whatever it would increase from its current level as it sits today, would also come to the borough. We can be talking, besides that bond debt, you know, you can extend it to 20 years, being optimistic that there's a lot of development and based on the revenue that we're looking to generate, we might pay it off in 10 years. Once that debt's paid off, then the money goes to those respective entities and the TIF goes away.
I have another question here, Mayor. Are you looking to finance for the streetscape?
That would be the funding mechanism for doing this, would be streetscape improvement.
Okay. Where do we see the delta, the marginal tax, the additional tax revenue coming in on the streetscape?
It's factual that when you improve a streetscape, not only does it bring up all the values of the actual properties on the street,
Right.
but it has a residual effect on the community as a whole, and even a larger impact on the homes that abut what they call the Elm Street. You know, you're gonna see a significant cost value of properties in downtown Monaca with a streetscape improvement, more economic development. Those homes become more valuable, and it just raises the level of your community.
Mario, you're talking about the streetscape, okay? Now, we want to beautify the main street of Monaca, I understand that, but these buildings that aren't up to code, what do we do with these buildings that aren't up to code? We're not gonna pay for them to bring up to code.
They need to come down.
I mean,
No,
we
we're not.
talked before
No,
about.
we're talking about sidewalks
All right,
and.
So
I understand that, but we're gonna beautify something and we still have dead
Right.
storefronts.
The theory is if we make the downtown more attractive and beautify it, it would entice small businesses and to occupy these vacant storefronts. And then by having a nicer downtown streetscape, the buildings will take care of them.
I understand that, but, you know, people aren't gonna come in here and wanna put a small business in and have to bring these buildings up to code to open these small businesses.
That's been the problem all along.
You know, I
I mean,
mean,
that's,
we need to go after these people.
yeah.
Yeah, we had,
I know we keep talking about, we get nowhere.
well, we have ordinances that we've worked on over the years. But, and we also, I'll be real quick. Sorry. When you talked about that, and Rich was talking about that, I envisioned maybe taking out a half a block or a block of homes, dilapidated homes and buildings. Getting money for that.
Economic development, based on the bylaws of which you create that entity to do that economic development or redevelopment thing, can do exactly that. Depends on what the bylaws and what you allow it to do, but it can buy old dilapidated buildings and it can,
I'm all for the streetscape, you know, I've been trying to hang on as long as I can to see that thing happen. But also in conjunction with that, in our discussion before the meeting, you know, I was talking about getting a half a block on a couple of homes here that are for sale on the main street. We're trying to bring in a off-street plaza or what have you for parking, where the building is a little bit further back, so the cars can come off the street, park in front of the building, like when you see a Beaver. I don't appreciate it.
and I think, you know, the tax increment financing is one mechanism, but I think that lends to what you're exactly saying
Yeah.
is even a more important reason for starting the redevelopment authority, because the redevelopment authority can be charged with exactly what you're saying, and now it's not, you know, the borough being in the real estate business that some say that we shouldn't be,
We
but
should
we
be.
sometimes argue that maybe we should be more.
We should be.
You know, so now you create
Always.
the redevelopment authority to do that task that
Now,
you want done.
if I may, one last thing, I'm sorry. You got all those years again. If I may suggest, I think there may be an organization already on the books on paper. I don't if you talk to Norm, Ely about it, or there might be something towards redevelopment. If not, certainly I would support it, I'm sure the rest of us. Good.
Chris?
Rich, I'll be the pessimist. So let's say filter dreams doesn't come true, we build it and they don't come. And there is no delta increase in the taxes. And we go 5 years, 10 years into this with no increase. What happens at that juncture?
That's a very good question, because everything that precedes what you need to do has to be planned out. And the most important aspect of that planning is the economic plan. It has to work. Somebody has to say what you plan to do with what you draw on paper and all the bells and whistles of what you want to do. Is that going to bring in money? You just can't do it on a wing and a prayer, because people don't lend you money on a wing and a prayer. So the most important aspect of it is the economic plan. Is it going to produce the tax revenue that you think it's going to produce? And if you clear that hurdle, then it's just a matter of connecting all the pieces together. It's not easy, but it's a big hurdle to overcome.
I ran some generic numbers just looking at what the property, Sheets property in Rochester pays just in real estate taxes. And then the equivalent of the appraised value of the library building. And just those two entities in their own probably net $20,000 in taxes alone. Because, again, the library's paying zero. So we would get the full effect of the taxes on that property. And hypothetically, if a similar sheet were to occur on the borough property here, netting out the property owned by the entity next door. And again, I'm not gonna say there was a solid number, but approximately just those two properties would be $20,000
Each of total.
between the two total.
So it'd be 400,000 over 20 years.
Justin?
Okay, and then, we know we have potential Washington Plaza. There's a lot of other speculative development that's going to occur downtown, just because of Shell. It's gonna happen. It's just what's it gonna be? So there's gonna be other economic, in addition to that. And we would have to establish what that corridor and district would be, 14th to 17th Street, not 9th Street, and any new activity that would increase the assessed value of those properties would go to it. So, through a thorough plan, what that number might be, is it could be 40,000, 50,000, and then do your mathematics over 20 years, a potential for $1 million.
Randy?
I may have missed this. In the time between we get this done and something starts to happen, are we responsible for paying a portion of the loan at this point until things, taxes,
You wouldn't get
whatever?
the loan until everything's completely established. That entity has to be established first.
First. And then everything happens, whatever comes in has taxes. Is there any gap in between where we would be liable for a chunk of money to pay until?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you would, if you can't convince another existing authority to be the funding source, and you created your own redevelopment authority, that redevelopment authority would have some startup costs.
Until everything got rolling.
And so that you would have to fund that, because they would have no other way of funding it.
Jeff?
So Rich, reassessment on these properties that are included in the landscape, is reassessment part of the economic? Well, no, I'm saying that because Mario said if we do this,
Yeah,
the value of the property's going up. Well, if it's gonna go up, it's gonna require
it
reassessment.
could have,
Not a reassessment, it's just a new assessment.
if you're talking about apples and oranges, a reassessment would be what the county commissioners
Right,
would order countywide.
is that the way it would
If that's
go?
what you're talking about, there would there would be a cap on how much the increased revenues you could obtain through a tax reassessment. So let's say it went up by 10% just because of the reassessment. If without a reassessment, it stayed the same, and with a redevelopment that went up at 10%, that extra 10% goes to the TIF. So if as a result of the reassessment it goes up by 10 and you only get another 5% on top of it, then only that 5% goes to the TIF. So long-term, that uncertainty about a reassessment could impact the idea behind this TIF, and it could have some impact on it.
My final question on this is just trying to understand the logistics. With Shell coming in, how, or any other downstream entities that might be coming in on their own that's inflating property values now, how do we go about figuring out, well, Shell caused this much increase and us developing caused this much? Do we get this whole thing, or what do we actually realize as the increase?
Yeah, that's beyond my capability to tell you, because I don't know, I'm not an expert in that area.
I think we're making it a lot more complex.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
This isn't me trying to be rude.
No.
It's- We're talking about something we haven't done before. So everyone here's got a question tonight.
Yeah,
So let's answer the questions while we're all in one room. Let's not try and downplay it.
right, and I'm not saying it in that manner, right? The formula is very simple, okay? This property has a baseline right now, what it pays, 0. If a building comes on it, it gets assessed. What's that? That amount would go to the TIF, okay? The building across the street, Secor, it has an assessed value. It has a baseline. It's established. That's what it is, okay? If it got bulldozed and a 5-story high building goes up there, the base goes to Monaca Borough, goes to the school district, goes to the county. The TIF would only capture that increased value above it, okay? If there's a reassessment, there's going to be an established base pre the reassessment. Whatever the difference of that improvement from that would go to the TIF. I mean, there's a formula for it. I maybe because I've been studying and looking at it, and I know it a little better. I mean, it's very simplistic.
Right, that's not my question. My question was, we developed this entity, and we're redeveloping downtown. And all of a sudden, Whole Foods shows up and wants to build at Herzog's and all the houses down there. Well, Whole Foods coming in creates its own increase, but it's outside of our area. So we see this increase. That's my question to him.
We would not see that as the TIF if you didn't include it into that district. You have to.
Right, I understand that, but that is the increase. But a block down, which is in our region, would see a marginal increase in their value based upon these new entities. That's what I'm saying. Shell's in here. It's not in our region, but we're going to see an increase in property value possibly. That was my question. So that's not the simplistic part.
That's for the economic part of the study, that impact. And the more focused you are on what you want to include in the TIF, as opposed to making it over a broader area, could also make a difference. Because if you just want to talk about 9th Street, or you want to talk about all of Pennsylvania Avenue, the bigger the area, the more possibilities you have, but at the same time, the bigger the area and you only have 1 or 2 properties where you have a really significant increase, may not bring in the amount of money that a developer is going to say is going to be enough to pay off the bond. And that's why you need someone who's capable of doing all those projections, and there are people who do that.
And don't confuse market value with assessed value.
Correct.
Because assessed value is, so yeah, when something happens, the property market values
It's a
are
stock
going to go
market.
up.
It's only realized.
But the assessed value is, and that's one of the objections to, should there be a reassessment.
Gary?
Here, you don't have anything, and I assume I'll be the last one. I understand this pretty well myself, just in my own employment, but I do want to clarify a few items, Rich, if you indulge me for a second.
Sure.
I heard here that Center Township would be involved in this. I'm not understanding why Center Township.
District.
School district.
Just the district, not the township, so I believe that Mr. Michael said the township and a borough, and he did one of the.
What I said is Center Township has an existing authority that is separate from the township government that has been used for TIF financing purposes.
Okay. But if one was created, it would only be the three entities of the county, school district, and borough of Monaca, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I got clarification on that. I believe that Mrs. Rossi was asking the question, if the borough of Monaca was to create their own authority, or are we outside of the authority? Would either us or that authority have to pay the loan back until redevelopment starts?
You wouldn't get the loan until there's an assurance that redevelopment is going to work.
Right. So my understanding of this is that it wouldn't be, right now every building's at, every property right now is being assessed, and there's a tax base for every property, despite whether it has a building or not a building, unless it's municipally owned, which Mr. Leon has mentioned 3 properties that a borough of Monaca owns. Additionally, there's one down by Mike's Pit Stop and the parking lot over there. The only increase in tax revenue that would come upon is if somebody took over those properties, they really redeveloped or and built something on it, or to Mr. Leon's point, if somebody would take over a building here and rebuild upon it. There would be no tax increase or revenue from if the insurance company stayed an insurance company, correct?
You're correct.
Yeah, correct, unless they made such substantial improvement to the property that the assessor says, now because of what you've done,
Right.
makes it worth more.
So I believe to Mr. Nolder's, Councilman Nolder's question is that those buildings down there with the boarded up, unless somebody comes in and either enhances that or Benny himself enhances that, that tax base is still the same. It's not going away from it being boarded up.
Are you talking about the one that about a year and a half ago, he said he was gonna take the boards off?
Yes, I believe that's the one thing.
You mean by enhancement, what's womanized plywood on it instead of the regular plywood?
It was basically, so I just wanted to make sure that I got that clarification for anybody that may have been listening and had any questions, because I know I'm probably going to be the last one to speak on this versus Robert's role. So I just wanted to make sure I answered all the questions. Thank you for indulging me, Mr. Solicitor.
Well, you can't speak against what everyone asks, but we'll be around one more time. One question on this, then, what's the next move? We're gonna try to put something together, have council put something together?
Well, I would strongly recommend council consider this as an opportunity and a funding vehicle for the streetscape. And in light of time, these things, take a while, but I think the quicker we act, the quicker we can possibly benefit from development. And so there's just a sense of urgency. I don't know timeline, how long legal documents creating these things that'll take. I don't know. Is it 6 months, a year?
You could create a legal entity in a day. And the creation of the authority is not the critical part of it. The critical part of it is who's going to pony up the initial money? Who's going to take the risk? So are you gonna take the risk by funding your own authority to get all these preliminary things done? Do you want to approach another existing authority as a funding source and work with you directly or work with an authority that you create? Knowing Monaca and knowing your finances somewhat, I think it's going to be very difficult to convince 10 of you to pony up some substantial money to do this, not knowing whether it's going to produce anything. just saying.
Well, within that aspect, I think that'll be anybody, I think.
Yeah, I don't mean it as criticism.
Right,
No,
right,
and I would have to respectfully disagree, and whether or not, maybe I'm taking it wrong, but I think I just shared with you all that we got a A+ stable rating. Monaca's financial situation is very good.
That's not what I
He
meant.
said get 10 votes, get
But-
5, 6
No,
votes.
I'm not
Yeah.
talking, no, I'm not talking about ultimately getting the money to do it, I'm talking about startup money. Who's gonna pay for the cost of the study? Who's gonna pay for the architects up front so that you have something to present to the funding people? You gonna pay that?
Well, I
If
think
you're
there
gonna
has
pay
to be a commitment to that, and again,
That's what I'm talking about.
Ballpark figure.
Unless I'm in a different world, again, I think there's gonna be activity here. I'm not a big gambler. But, you know, I presented 3 properties to you that currently are just there, no taxes. I'm gonna say that in a couple of years, there's a dynamic, maybe not this, because council may not agree to sell this property. But eventually, we're selling the library. I think that's been pretty much decided. There's gonna be activity downtown Monaca, whether we want it or not. As long as it meets our zoning, it's gonna happen.
Either way, it makes it, lights a fire under council to get rid of the properties that we currently own in the borough in this specific area. And then when, you know, the property in White's Pit Stop was did not get sold, maybe this lights a fire if this authority comes, and now we're going to proceed painting it for this back off of this property, so we should sell it. You know what I mean?
Or acquire more property to add to
There's another one for sale down there next to it. But it's either here or there. We need ballpark figure. And I think we're on a quarter here is to move forward with it. Let's move forward with it.
Barry, are you talking about selling the library and using that money as a startup money?
Well, there could be, some of that money could be utilized for it, but with what our intention is here, I would say, don't sell the library until we know we got the TIF created, because we don't want anything to happen there, because
Yeah, so creating the TIF requires you to get a study done. Who's gonna pay for the study?
yeah, there is a financial commitment.
That was my point all
Yeah,
along.
yeah, to do this and get it going, and I guess, that's where I need, I have some questions on as well, they're good questions, they haven't been asked here. You know, what is our budgeted cost to get something like this started up?
I'm not an expert in the area of doing a study. You wouldn't have to pay anything to get the assessor to come in and do what he's required to do, and that is to give you a baseline assessment of the district property. So if you say all of 9th Street on both sides, the county assessor would have to tell you and certify what the values of those properties are. You then need a study to say, here's how we're going to improve the streetscape. This is a manner in which we're going to do it. And that's going to require professional involvement. You're then going to need someone to come in and financially determine what the effect of that is going to be on your community and what the effect of it is going to be on your tax revenue, so that you could take it to somebody and say, here's our projection. Go to market, sell bonds, so that we could get all that money up front, do our improvements, and you'll see that our planned financial projection of tax revenues is going to be enough to pay you back. But you need that money to do, you need professionals to do that. You can't do it on my opinion or your opinion or President Brewer's opinion. People aren't just going to lose money that way. Kind of I guess it's akin to getting, not the same as, but it's akin to getting an appraisal.
Mary, if you wanted to hang on to the library, so we still have some sort of control of it, why don't we just borrow some money, some seed money to get started against it? When you're ready to sell it, sell it.
we have capital reserves currently that we have, and again, you know, how much can this cost us to do these studies? 20,000, 30,000?
What was the engineering what was the engineering cost for the park, 60? I think it was 60,000, that's all 60,000.
$50,000.
For DCNR grant.
For design, engineering, overseeing the project and everything, yeah, that was 60,000. And creating a authority, obviously, you have legal documents to put together.
It's easy
Mike
and quick.
Coleman, he doesn't charge us to do that as the assessment, does he? I mean,
To get an answer to your question, maybe you should talk to the Center Township, don't have a manager, but to see what their costs were and what they utilized and who they utilized, you'll get a better understanding of that. Because I frankly have no clue what it would cost you. Thank you, Frank. Okay, as I said, it's not an often used thing in Beaver County. Center was the last one to do it.
All right, but I guess, is there an agreement among members, and is this something that you want to pursue? You want to, something that I need to get more information?
I'll make a motion to give the borough manager and solicitor the authority to explore.
TIF financing.
TIF financing, thank you, Richard.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Any questions? Jeff?
John, you've just increased Rich's pay. We got a cost now because you included Rich. You realize that?
Rich, try to
Thanks. Bankrupted you every year.
You know what, in 20 years, he's never done us wrong. Never done us wrong.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Can we move on to department reports? Mr. DeJoven, wastewater treatment plant.
Yes, good evening, Curtis DeJoven, operator, Monaca wastewater treatment. I will keep this brief as possible. The treatment plant was in compliance for the month. Sanitary waste hauling and processing, we took in $10,695 during the month. Belt filter press operations cost us $1,037.50 for sludge disposal. There's some items in there for maintenance, construction, and operations you can see. We've been very busy, as you can see, through the maintenance schedule there. We did not have time to conduct a formal safety meeting. However, safety and safety practices are continually reviewed at the wastewater treatment plant. Section 8 personnel, all employees have met their contractual obligations regarding employment. That's all I have. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Jeff?
Not to Kurt, but since we're on water, highway, and sewage, this is the appropriate time to ask the water questions, since they don't have a representative here.
Well, let's see if anyone's got any other questions for Kurt. We're sitting on stage there all that.
Any questions for Kurt? Thank you, Kurt.
You may take a seat there, Curtis.
I don't understand, what are you talking about?
Well, first, I'm going to compliment on him getting that mixer in, okay? That's a big job. We had a water break up here, okay, at Slush Puppy. And there were just some decisions made, and once again, we had to shut down the entire downtown to repair a service line. A service line. Everybody, I don't care if it was only for half an hour. And if they used the same process as they did before to shut down the entire downtown, once again, they put the system in jeopardy. So do I ask my questions to whom? The executive committee, the borough manager, or should I
That
go
was
out?
just yesterday. What would the executive committee know, other than it happened?
Yeah, as far as executive committee, I can tell you, we're unaware that I know that just from the resident of Monaca that there was a water break as I tried to drive down Pennsylvania Avenue. I don't know the particulars of it. Mr. Mayor probably would be the individual to speak about that, and I think before you advise us to what actually happened, maybe in this, you don't advise the rest of the council what actually happened first. Maybe you can ask the question that way.
All I can tell you is they attempted to close that section of Pennsylvania Avenue down. And Mr. Michael, as you know, they went to a respective valve, and that one didn't do a complete shutdown. So they go and they have to expand it. And as they continue to expand, shutting valves, the water is not. It's looping around somewhere mysteriously through the system. And this isn't the first time that happened. It's happened on other occasions where we haven't been able to shut down water in certain areas because it's backfeeding from somewhere. Whether there's a valve that's somewhere that's buried in asphalt that they can't shut, but they kept expanding the shutdown to where it ended up shutting all the residents downtown and some industries as well. And when they did that, it still didn't shut the line where they were trying to do the lateral. And after expanding, they just had to abandon it, and they found a different way to resolve the problem that they were dealing with, and turn the water back on, and it was off for a half hour.
May I ask a question just for clarification? In regards to it being a service line or a main line, either way, the road was collapsing and the water was coming out?
There was a leak.
So either way, it had to be addressed, depending upon if it was a service line or not. There was still a leak, potentially making the road dip down and had to be addressed, correct? Doesn't matter if it's on the main line or service line, still something that had to be addressed.
It had to be addressed, but not at the degree that a broken main is gonna put out more volume of water than a service line would. It's not gonna, if a service line breaks and it collapses the road, I'd be very surprised. But what was, once again though, did they do the same shutdown that they did on Thanksgiving?
I can't answer that question. I wasn't there.
I would like you to find out
They-
for me,
they
please,
shut down.
if you would. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I would never be able to articulate back to you exactly
Well, then
what
could
they
you
did.
have whoever was
We
in
want to
charge
have
of
a
that?
meeting with them.
I'd love to.
Coordinate.
I'd love to. And the last question I have about that, obviously it was a corporation stop problem,
Correct.
and they couldn't get the fitting out of the pipe, supposedly, out of the main.
You know more than the rest of us.
Well, I walked in while they were talking to the contractor, because I had other issues to
There
go
was a
on.
problem with the court stop. They were going to put a new court stop on it. That's why they wanted to shut the main down. They
But that's
couldn't
not
get the
what
main
happened.
down. They debated on just keeping that old one shut at the court and putting a new tap in. But then they ended up having a fitting that adapted to it. And it wasn't the perfect solution to the situation, but the fact that they couldn't shut it down in the field, that was the decision that they made. They put some reducer and put it together, and it's fixed. As you know, it's supposed to be one line from the court to the curb stop. Unfortunately, there had to be a fitting placed in between there. So there's a fitting between the court and the curb stop. But that resolved it, was a solution. Isn't the perfect solution, it's not the approved solution, but sometimes in the field, you have to make modifications, and that's what was done.
Is there any lead in what they left off the main line?
It was a complete new line from the court to the curb box, and they actually installed a new curb box there as well.
I'm saying the corporation stop on the main line, was there any lead? The piece they left in the main?
I don't know that. I would have to ask them that question. I don't know that.
Chris?
Tangentially related. You mentioned that we need to ask the water department directly, or Mr. Joven directly for, if we had questions regarding something like this. As part of their jobs, are they supposed to come here every month, at least once to give a report? Whether it's highway, water.
Mr. Joven is a salaried employee, and he comes here. If council so desires those individuals to be here, they're in the union, you will have to pay them overtime and, minimum time. desire for those individuals to attend their meeting, the council requests them to be there, we can certainly make them, but knowing that you're going to pay, time and a half for them to be here to give a report.
Would it be fair to pay Rich, we pay Tony to be here as well, correct? Or is it part of
Once
it?
a month,
Once a
every
month.
other.
Tony's on a retainer.
So they come in,
Tony's
beginning,
on a retainer.
we could possibly move these up and it'd be nominal amount, realistically.
I mean,
I just wanted to know,
the
if part of their
question-
job is
the-
that.
The question that Mr. Michaels is asking me is how did they do that shutdown, with bells and that?
Right.
I mean, for them to explain that to me and then me to explain, it would make it a lot simpler for them to just explain it to
Right.
him directly. Eric may not have been at the scene that particular day doing it. It would be Jared, so depending on who came to the meeting, it's not guaranteed that they're gonna be able to answer your question
Right.
as well. If they're on vacation a week. So, again, that's your prerogative here at council if you wish to have that representative here, just knowing that there is compensation involved.
Would you and Dawn like to start getting the highlight report?
I mean, I can read a paper report.
I'm just saying, because technically you two are running the project.
And we are issuing the work orders and giving directives. But if you ask me what specifically took place on that, I'm not in the whole, or I'm not at the site to tell you exactly what happened. I can't, I didn't see the court. I don't know if it was lead. I'd have to ask them. I want to say they're all knowledgeable enough to know that if they saw lead, they would have flagged it and said that it had to be replaced, especially in the height of what we're dealing with water systems and the level of awareness with lead. I don't think that any of them would have ignored that fact.
I hope not.
Eric?
Yeah, my question is for Jeff. I don't understand your first question. You were asking how it was a detriment to the system or report our system in jeopardy. I don't understand what your question or reasoning is. Why are you asking that question? Can you explain how it put the system in jeopardy? Because I want to know where I don't know. I'm really looking for knowledge on why you asked the question.
When you shut the entire downtown, we're gravity fed, okay? And we had a break, and we had it across the tracks here, all right? You shut the valves at the top of the hill by the reservoir. You don't let any reservoir water run downtown, okay? The two lines that feed the downtown. As the water continues to leak, it creates a vacuum in those pipes that feed the downtown. They can collapse. I don't care what they're made out of. If there's enough head pressure and water loss at the bottom, and that vacuum is big enough, we could jeopardize the entire downtown from receiving water from those two lines that come off the hill. That's what upset me so bad on Thanksgiving, was the way they did the shutdown, because there's this divided line about who people can talk to and who can't, who's willing to help and who's not willing to help. Okay, the union versus a councilman. We don't have access. We're all in this town together. If I know, because I've done it before, and I save this town from losing water downtown, I'm going to present it. It hasn't been accepted in over 2 years from anybody on this council. Okay? I'm not going to cross the path with the union. I'm not going to sit here and make everybody mad every week. I think it's ridiculous sometimes the way we do business and who's allowed to talk to who and what about different situations. Okay? And like I said, I told you this before, Mary. If I don't have the answer, I still have two gentlemen that are willing to talk to me, to get us the answers. But they're not going to talk to the three workers that are down there now. And they're probably not going to talk to anybody else on council about it. I'm trying to remedy a problem and keep us from having a catastrophe. But that communication, those lines of communication have been broken. I'm still willing. I'll still put myself out there. But if I'm not reciprocated from the other end, then that door's going to close someday too.
You let me know when you're available, and I will gladly have Mr. Ragazzino and Mr. Fredericks, President of the Council, and further building here, and you can ask them those questions, and they can tell you and present any recommendations that you may have for them.
No problem with that.
Hold on, hold on.
Derek?
I'm just, so I got the answer to why we were in jeopardy, and I recall you saying that you overheard this when Mr. President asked you how you were aware of all this situation. You said you were in the office at that time. At that time, did you lend your expertise to Mr. Leon?
Mr. Leon was not present.
Not in the
I
office.
asked Dawn to have Mr. Leon give me a call,
Gotcha.
and I didn't interrupt or interject anything between the contractor and the conversation between himself and Gabby and Dawn.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Mr. Shaw, our ordinance review committee, chairman's report.
I have nothing on the sidewalk. I'm actually gonna send Tony some questions. So does that need to be approved if we have to ask him for engineering questions for, because there's a lot of the.
Email me and then.
Okay.
I'll-
I didn't know how that had to work.
I'll present it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Executive committee, chairman's report, Mr. Wilson.
There was no meeting in between the last week. We would like to have a meeting on Monday, excuse me, the 18th, if possible. I'll send an email out to the individuals on the committee.
What time is it? Mr., can you,
I'll send an email just to double check on John's capability.
we need to shift
Oh, yeah. I'll give the solicitor, and I'll send an email to make sure that I have
Okay.
time for the meeting.
Monday, the 18th, yeah, what time?
That's up to you.
Oh.
Anywhere from 6:30 on. 6:30 if you're, if you, we can,
We can do
talk off.
his issue first and.
Mhm.
Yeah, 6:30 is good on the 18th.
Okay, 6:30 on the 18th, for those who are here from the committee and those who aren't. I'll make sure that I get a hold of the mayor and the other members that are absent tonight. Thank you.
Okay. New business, we need a motion to approve property replot submitted by Lawrence and Catherine Sedlak, 720 Taylor Avenue, and Edward, Genevieve Ann, and Michael Rowan Sr. and Eileen Rowan, 1244 Eckerd Road, as recommended by the Beaver County and Monaca Borough Planning Commissions.
So,
Do you want to, does everybody understand?
No, I don't understand, until you read it.
what are you doing,
Mary.
subdividing?
Mary or Rich?
Yeah, this is property that's located on Tabor Avenue, owned by Lawrence and Catherine Sedlak. And then there's another property that fronts on Bechtel Avenue. It was in the families. I believe it was a great uncle that owned that property. And the heirs are settling the estate.
There it is.
And basically, it's the property on Bechtel Street that was owned by the uncle
Right.
is giving a few feet of property, making the backyard of Lawrence and Catherine Sedlock a little bit bigger. It's just a shifting of the rear lot line, giving more property to Lawrence and Catherine and less property to the,
Make them equal lots.
yeah.
Make
And,
them equal lots.
it went through.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, I live across the street.
Yeah. So,
Oh, you just.
it's been all approved.
No, I didn't know what
You
piece
want
of property
property?
was taught, no. I didn't understand that, which, I mean, because their properties put up against each other, but one has more than the other, and they want equal.
It's just shifting, yes, giving Catherine and Lawrence a little more property. At the time when the uncle was living there, it was his garden,
Right.
and now that there's no longer a garden, that line's just shifting. And they tried to do it when he gave the lot the first time, for them to build that house on it, but because of the garden, that was the issue.
He was still alive when they built that house,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But it's
I
a
got
very
you.
simple
I got you.
subdivision, nothing real complex.
And it was recommended by the Beaver County and the Monaca Borough Planning Commission. We have a motion by Mr. DeMargio. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more questions? All in favor?
Mike?
Opposed? Motion passes. Jeff, do you have any new business?
No, sir. Not at this time.
Gary? Chris?
I have one thing. In talking to Mario, this weekend is the touch-up truck event that the fire department puts on. And last year, the public works department brought vehicles, and there was a discussion that they might need 4 hours of overtime for someone to work it. Mayor basically made it clear that it would need to be approved by council, so I don't know if I can make a motion for that or what would be the proper form for that. Sorry. So,
Well, no, yeah, there's some logistical issues with it this year on who's gonna operate the vehicle, and I had indicated to Mr. Shada that I would have to make sure that someone was available for it.
Right.
And then obviously, initially we were looking at a volunteer effort. I will ask if they would be willing to volunteer, but I think it's probably gonna necessitate some authorization of overtime, right? I just wanted to make sure that, council was okay with it, because I didn't want to honor his request and then someone say, why did we pay overtime for someone to go there? So I told him I recommend him to ask council's permission to, if I can find someone available to do it. We only have 3 employees there, and really only one that's able to operate all the equipment, and then Darren has the ability to operate some. And again, depending on what piece of equipment you want to, some.
so should I seek a motion for permission for overtime? Granted, you could find somebody who's willing to be removed Friday or Saturday, and somebody be there Saturday with the equipment.
What equipment would it be?
So it would honestly be up to the borough's discretion what they want to bring there. Last year was the excavator, the dump, and the front loader. So they just drove it down Taylor, parked it there, and no one worked it last year. So the thoughts were, if no one could be there Saturday, if we could bring it Friday evening, it would sit there. And then, for example, Brendan Regala said he'd be available a couple hours. Darren's checking his availability and talking to see if he's available even to be there that day. So the point of the event is children come up and learn what the trucks are, who operates them, what their jobs are. So that's kind of why we want someone there, we being the fire department. So right now it's kind of fire department, police department, hopefully public works, a couple semis, tow trucks, school buses, and some other assorted things will be there.
What time is it?
Noon to 4. So can I make the motion?
You already did make it.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if you had.
Would you guys?
I'll second it, but I would like to see the trucks to be instated. I think we can open it more than just the public works. I believe somebody from the water should be able to operate all those.
Yeah.
Someone from the sewer may be able to operate all those.
Yeah.
All in favor?
CDL.
Aye.
Oh, yeah, did you have a
I just
question?
wanted
Sorry.
to, you had mentioned 2 different, would you need more than 1 person there, or just one of
No,
them?
those
either
are just
Brendan or-
individuals I talked to who, so Darren said he might be available. So then I also asked Brendan as well if he has availability, just to find out if there was people available or
So
not.
just one,
Yeah, just
one
one.
person?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brendan doesn't really have the availability or the ability to drive the vehicle. He can be there to talk about it. But we would need Darren or Russ to drive it, and possibly someone from the water department could drive it as well. And again, driving there Friday night, leaving out Friday night, there's some issue there. I would think the school area is safe, but again, we would be exposing that vehicle out there unsecured.
Cool truck. Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Derek, do you have any?
Nothing new.
Randy?
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, I got one item here. I request for the next meeting agenda, to put on for discussion, installation of the protective shield in the borough building office. We had some discussion there, but I think it's needed. And I feel a lot better about things if we go forward with it, but get it on the next agenda for discussion and voting. Let you all know now.
executive committee already discussed it.
Okay, put it on
He
for
was
vote.
supposed to get price.
That's all I have.
Is that it? Old business, does anybody have anything under old business?
You forgot to,
Who did I forget?
Joe. Oh, you came in this way, I apologize. I apologize.
Ross, I do that under old business. We sat here a couple Tuesdays ago and in the minutes, meetings of the last meeting, we denied the variance for the fence on Civic Avenue. I see the fence is still there. Is there any update in regards to that?
Yeah. The renter came in and applied for a permit under the, according to the rules and regulation of 3 foot, 3.5 foot, and has a permit, and we'll be making those modifications.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, now we'll move on to citizens' comments, complaints, and compliments. Citizens,
Yes. I'm on first.
please state your name, Bill, and address.
Bill Wise, 698 K Avenue, Monaca Heights. I think a couple of you know why I'm here. Poor Derek, every time he sees me drive by his house, he runs. Mario, he hides under his desk. A couple of things I just want to ask. Been here a long time in this town, first council meeting. You guys are too soft-spoken. I can't hear.
I agree.
Speak up, move your microphone, something,
I agree.
okay? But, two things for you.
Good.
Oh, is that good? Okay.
Yeah.
Two things. Downtown, heard you talking about the streetscape, didn't get much. Couldn't understand what was going on, okay? But there is several structures in the town that, I've been here 32 years. There's not been one thing done to them in 32 years. I don't think they've had a business in them. I don't think they've had, unless something's going out the back door, ain't nothing ever been in them. And they're in bad shape. There's garbage laying around the street. Wasn't for them poor girls sweeping. I think there needs to be some type of fines put on these people. There again, I understand you didn't have
Neighborhood Services Officer.
what?
Neighborhood Services Officer.
Yeah, that too. Didn't have that for a while. I understand you got one. Now, part-timer. These people need to pay
Right.
to clean up. There's buildings down there. They're renting apartments upstairs, downstairs are a mess. There again, something needs to be done about them.
And fast.
Derek knows, Eddie Ray knows where I'm going next. That property up on K Avenue, that's a shame. That's an absolute shame that grass has not been cut. It is over 4 foot high. Believe me, and I've talked to Mary about it, and I understand his position. I disagree with it. To me, that's a small problem. And if we can't resolve small problems in this town, what are we gonna do when big problems come? Okay? Now, I understand the solicitor said you can't go on people's property and cut the grass. But I don't think he'd like to have that area over by his house, nor any of you. But there is several places up there up on the hill that needs to be cleaned up. It really does. It's a shame. I talked to some people in Pittsburgh the other day. Talked, where are you from? I'm Monaca. You know what Monaca's famous for? The guy got toilets on his building. Oh, that's where the toilets are, right? Yeah. Don't care about Brad, don't care about Fleming, nothing else. Don't care about a good school system. It's a shame. We need to change it. The grass up in there, gotta be something done. That poor old woman lives next to it. I think she'd half afraid to walk in her backyard because she don't know what's coming out. And I don't know the solution. Mario told me you're not allowed to go on property of another, somebody's property and cut it.
There's a process before we can go.
Yeah, but the process,
And we've
we need to
initiated.
find out. Somebody's in charge of that property. And not, he was telling me it's not only that one, there's somebody needs to be, is responsible for that property. They need to be given minimum, couple weeks. Let's do something. They don't do it, hit them with a big fine. Maximum you can go. I understand it progressive.
You know where he's at?
Pardon me?
You know where he's at, because he's not.
Somebody's in
He's not
charge.
answering, he's not answering.
Who pays the taxes to the
He's
county?
not paying his taxes. He's in the paper, he's not
Let's,
paying.
eminent domain.
You have to be able to serve someone before it.
But there has to be something to be done to that, for that property. It really does. Like I said, something.
No, and
And I don't care because it's not next door to me, it's a couple of houses down.
Can I tell you, there was one on Washington Avenue. We're stuck in the same cycle and problem with it. And one of the neighboring people actually hired a company to go in there and cut it.
Okay?
I mean,
But you
it's
gotta-
easier for that to happen than for the borough to
Okay,
go on
I
that
understand
property.
that, John.
You
Mario
understand,
said-
you understand the new wave of suing and the way people are
I
now.
understand it.
We cannot enter that property and do that,
I'm
or
not
we
saying
would,
you.
or we
Can't we
would.
do something about it? Like I told Mary, how many lawn services we got in this town? 5?
They would have to donate it, just like.
That's what I'm
like
saying.
he
Does
just-
anybody
he
ask
just got
them?
upset because we did clear one
Does
property.
anybody ask them or approach them and say, hey, we got a problem?
I have, Mr. John.
We got a problem.
I have. Will you find me
You
someone?
have?
Please find me that person that will do it for free. 'cause
No, I mean, have to. Has anybody already approached them?
She said
No, I
she
do
did.
have. And they refused?
You tell me that lawn care service is willing to come and do it for free. and
I'm sorry, sweetheart, I can't hear.
You tell me who you're finding that's gonna come in and take that liability and do it for free. I'd be more than happy to call them. Because anyone that I'm calling,
Yeah.
even our local guys. will do it.
We're in a bad situation that if we can't do something for these poor people. The guy lives
Mr.
next
Weiss.
door, you got
Mr. Weiss.
3 or 4 kids. Olga's probably
Mr. Weiss,
90 years old. Yes, sir.
everybody here that I know of, and I guess this is the first time I've met you tonight, and I don't mean to be condescending, but everybody here has done something on their own for Monaca.
Okay.
And I have to ask you, because it's just like in the movie The Wizard of Oz. You're coming here and you expect us to wave this wand and make
I don't
something
expect
happen.
that.
We can't.
I don't
We
expect
can't. Our hands are tied. But what I'm asking you, and I'm saying this with respect, what are you doing for Monaca?
that. What am I
What are
doing?
you doing for your neighbors?
I do a lot for my neighbors. I try to help as much as I can.
All right, do you understand
But I
what I'm
cannot-
saying?
I cannot physically, with my health problems, go there and cut that grass. Or let me tell you something, I would.
Well,
I would.
we can't find.
Everybody said volunteer.
We can't find,
Calm
what
down,
are you
Bill.
talking? We can't find anybody to do it.
I can't what?
We can't find anybody to do it for free, and our hands are tied. So what's the
What would
answer?
it cost?
I don't know what it would cost. I haven't seen the.
That's why I asked you. Has anybody approached to get an estimate? I'm gonna tell you what, you find somebody to cut it, I'll pay it. There, how's that? Yes,
Bill, just so you know, and I'll go through the solicitor on this. I don't care if you do find somebody, please do not go to Dawn or Mario with this, with them knowing that somebody is going to actually trespass.
Oh, I understand that.
If it's not in the middle of the night and nobody knows who
Don't
did
let
it.
my raised voice.
Please,
I have all the respect in the world for Dawn and Mario. I've known Dawn since she was a little kid. So don't think I'm disrespecting her.
No, you're
I
not.
get excited
I'm saying-
and I just talk about it.
I get excited
And
too.
so, but I'm just saying, if we get somebody, I'll tell you what, I'll give him $100 to go cut that property.
Bill, also, that you're talking about the main street, we did pass an ordinance last year to start finding all the empty storefronts.
Okay?
Okay,
But can
so,
we do that for these people elsewhere? Not only for their property, but for their, like I said, the grass. And Mario said I think he estimated 20 properties in Monaca. I'm not singling out that guy. Let's start finding these people.
And I'll go there on that issue there.
I'm sorry, sir.
I says, I'm gonna rebut what you're saying, they're finding these people, okay? And I'm gonna share this information in executive session in more detail with council. I was just at the magistrate's hearing today on another
Okay.
property violation, okay? This started in September of last year, okay? The last time I was there, the owner was given 60 days to rectify the matter.
Right.
Went to a hearing this morning at 10 o'clock. He was granted another 30 days, okay? And now, he threatens, if it's not done after 30 days, then you're gonna start assessing fines. But if the individual doesn't have any, said,
Who's that, Joe?
he's gonna end up maybe in jail. I mean, but it's not that we're not doing anything, but even that property owner that you're talking with the grass, if he accepted our notice, if he even accepted it, and then we went to the hearing, the magistrate's gonna say, I'm gonna give you a week, 20 days, 30 days, whatever, to cut it. We wait. He waits, he uses the whole 30 days. We go back to the hearing. Your Honor, I hurt my back, I didn't wait.
If that's the
And
case,
that's the process that we're dealing with, okay? That's the process that we're dealing with.
then I don't know what to tell you.
And that's why I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just a frustrated old taxpaying man.
And we are
They don't want
equally
my
frustrated.
neighborhood deteriorating like some of this stuff downtown. There we are. That's it. And I don't care, I still like you, Mario.
I have the mutual respect, Mr. West.
any other citizens?
Now I got them worked up, it's your problem.
Hi, Patricia Majors, 1223 Atlantic Avenue. If you will, I'd like to ask a couple questions about the pump house. I'll ask this on behalf of the outreach. The hillsides that you were referring to, Mr. Michael, is it the sculptured one, terraced, or is it on the other side where the weed growth is that's been handled or been taken down? I've noticed that it seems like the weed growth to the left of the garden has been, some of that's been taken out.
Our employees did that.
I'd like to compliment on that. I'm happy to see that. For about 4 or 5 years, I took the youth down there. It was a very difficult thing to do. We do not have power tools. We used the old-fashioned sickles and hand tools and cleaned that out. And I will tell you that just on that one side, it was not unusual for us to take 3 or 4 dump truck loads out of there. And if the borough paid for it this year, thank you.
Actually, Jared McKay did that, and the resident next door, I don't remember his name. He's an employee of McCreary Lawn Care, and he actually came out and volunteered and helped Jared clean that hillside.
It looks so much better and looked great for Beaver County Boom.
They did a fantastic job. Thank you for bringing that up.
They did, and I know it's a lot of work and a lot of maintenance down there. And the mulching, thank you very much. I'm just sorry we weren't able to get to the shrubs in the circle. We just did not have enough time when we try and keep up to the weeds and everything. But it's appreciated that that was done. And if you'd also let them know from the outreach, we do appreciate that. And that was one question I had. Mr. Michael, also, I don't believe entire downtown lost water with that water main break.
That's what I was told.
I did not lose water, but I do understand that 1300 block was down for a while.
That was 1000. You sure he wasn't down?
I don't think we were, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it was only a half an hour.
It wasn't that long, but yeah, all
Yeah.
downtown.
Water was dirty.
Well, yeah, the water is a little bit, or had been a little bit dirty, but
Well, my wife asked me, did we have a water line break? I said, I didn't know. Probably did, and we had dirty water yesterday.
okay. And also then, for the business authority, I guess there's a little tiny flicker of hope at the end of the tunnel. Since I spoke to you a couple weeks ago asking about a redevelopment authority, I've had a phone call from Mr. Benyo again, asking for new paperwork to submit for a facade improvement. I will reserve my opinion on that, but it will be sent out to him.
What's he running for this?
I don't know, that's what got me. Well, now I'm thinking, maybe he's thinking he's gonna sell it if he cleans it up, hopefully. The other individual that we are meeting with tomorrow afternoon, I'm going with Suzanne Modrak. We'll be meeting with, oh Lord, I think it's Mike Samobloski that owns Yolanda's. He is looking at facade improvement. I'm hopeful some of it can be covered, some of it may not be eligible because it's cosmetic. But he is taking an active step to try to improve that area, including the concrete and everything there. And I had a phone call this week, Ken Majors, who owns what used to be the Quilt Basket on Wall Street on the corner of Wall in Pennsylvania, had a gentleman call me. He is interested in a couple of the properties up on the 1300 block for a professional office space. So I'm trying to find out who the owners are. I unfortunately don't have that information like we used to have on the property owners on all the businesses, but it's a start. I guess the glimmer of hope is, whether there's a streetscape today or if it's 2 years from now, people are looking at Monaca. It will come. I do think it will come in time. We need to do what we have to do on our end as a community. I applaud what you've looked into with the TIF funding. It sounds very interesting. I have a friend that was president of the East Liberty Redevelopment Corporation. I'm sure we'll have an interesting discussion. But I just want to say thank you because you're moving forward. You're not just waiting for it to come to us. You're moving ahead. So thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
I just want to say,
supposed to yell.
Who, me? Oh, I can yell. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say that since Mr. Leon and Mr. York are going to be getting some,
I can't hear you. You're a little hard to hear.
Yeah,
Is the thing
You
not
are.
turned up right? He's got his microphone.
yeah, but his mouth is closed.
He's the loudest guy.
I speak very good English.
So do I.
Okay.
So do I.
I have no other reason why you may not be able to hear me.
Your voice is deep. That makes it difficult.
We can hear ourselves through these speakers, but I don't think the speakers in the seat.
There are.
Anyways, my point is that Mr. Leon and Mr. York are going to be getting additional information to propose to a authority. So if you have gentlemen that are interested in buildings and making renovations to buildings, can get that information, maybe they can add it to a proposal.
Yes,
Thank you.
that is better. I'm hearing it even now. I'm hearing myself out here now.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Bill?
Better.
Any information that I get, it is usually shared with Mr. Leone. So anything that comes through, I'll be happy to make sure that he's well aware of it immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Any other citizens?
Eddie Ray. Eddie Ray.
Section of
Tell Mr. DiMarzio what I've done for Monaca in my 30 years.
Absolutely nothing.
Just give him a little, after the meeting, after the meeting.
Need a motion to go into executive session for real estate and contracts.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We adjourn for 5 minutes.
That was